Hello dear coloring friends, and welcome to my channel and to another video for beginners. If you have not colored that long in coloring books, maybe this is a video for you. And I'm gonna start really basic because when I started to color in coloring books, I didn't even know that there were a difference between regular pencils like this classic color Faber-Castell that you can add to the paper, but if you add water on top, nothing happens. Nothing should happen. Actually, I have seen that water can make a little bit difference on the color, but they are not made for using with water as watercolor pencils like this. So that is step one, to understand that they are different. And of course you can use the watercolor pencils without water, but mostly they are a bit harder and not as good with blending and things like that as regular pencils before you add water. The magic comes with the water. And most watercolor pencils have this, maybe all, at least the one I have, a brush on the barrel to show that they are watercolor. And I might do another video where I compare with different brands, but for this video I will not talk that much about different brands because they all work the same in the books, even if, I mean, some have more pigment in them and things like that. If you have seen my other videos where I showed you some tips and tricks how to use felt tip pens and watercolor markers in coloring books, you know those are kind of hard to blend in the most books. These are much easier because you can add them dry. Let's try this one. And a lighter, and yeah, let's start where it's the lightest. Yeah, I think I used too much water. You can use a water brush or a regular brush with water, and mostly you don't need that much water to dissolve them. And the books are mostly not made for water, so that is a good thing to use a little amount. And as you can see, I'm no professional of how to do this, but oops, I would say that it's better to start with the lightest color and go up to the darker. And it can also be good to have some kind of paper close by so you can clean the brush. Oh, sorry. I hope you could see that. And if you want to do more layers, I mean, you can easily go over the page again with more colors if you think it's too light or you want to change anything, but you need to let it dry. And of course you can also, instead of color in the book with the pencils, you can also take color directly from the tip, like we did with the markers in the other video. So you can do that, or you can color directly in the books. Oops, I forgot to clean it, then it's got a little bit red. Actually, I think I accidentally used the non-watercolor pencil. I will take that away because it didn't blend at all. So it's much better to use than the watercolor. Yeah, now it's blend together much better. So you can experience with how much pigment you want on the paper, and you can of course start with little pigment and then let it dry and go over it again. Because if you let it dry between and don't use too much water when you dissolves the color, then the pages, they can be a bit wrinkled, but mostly they take it okay, and mostly they don't bleed through. But if, of course it can, the water can make it bleed through if you use too much water. So there are a lot of different brands, and I have both some cheap ones, Mondeluz this is, which I think works fine, and I know a lot of people that like them. I also tried also another brand that was quite inexpensive was Stabilo watercolor pencils, and I thought they were okay as well. But of course, you know me, are so curious when I read about different brands that people are recommending. So I also have some Supracolor Soft and some Albrecht Dürer, or all Albrecht Dürer, and some Museum, which are, all of them are artist grade pencils and very much more expensive. But I don't think the brand is the most important. You can use all kind of watercolor pencils like this, and I know a lot of people like watercolor pencils in the books because especially if they have problems with pain in their hand or arm, this is an easier way to color, because you don't have to blend it together with a blender stick or a blender pen or a pencil or a pencil. You don't have to press that hard. Mostly I start to dissolve the color where it's lightest, but sometimes I start where it's darkest. So you have to experiment and see what works best for you. And that depends how much of the light color you want still to be there. Because if you start with the dark color, it will easily make the lighter color quite dark. And I just want to mention one more watercolor pencil that I know a lot of people in the community like. And I want to mention it before it acts a little bit different than the other ones. And I'm not sure if I should call it a watercolor pencil, but it's acting a lot like those. I mean, it's Inktense, Derwent Inktense. They have also this brush sign, and they are, let's see, maybe I should take some colors that are more look alike the ones I already used. And they are known for being very pigmented. So let's start with the lightest one and go up and then a bit down to blend it together. And now pull in the brush, and yeah, something like that. But there are watercolor pencils, other ones that also have vivid colors. So the big difference is also that if you let it dry, and more normal watercolor pencil can still be dissolved. So if I go over this again, the colors will be reactivated of the water, even if it was dried. And not all of the color will come off, because this is not watercolor paper, so some of the color is stuck there. But the thing with Inktense is that when it dries, it becomes ink, and it's not meant to be able to reactivate with water. So if you have done one layer of that, you can then let it dry and make another layer, and the underneath layer should not be changed. You can't change, I mean, if you have a bad line between two colors, you can't change that after that, but you can do that with other regular watercolor pencils. I just need to let it dry until I try it. And what I like with watercolor pencils, you can just use them as they are on their own, but I also think it's nice to do a base layer of watercolor pencils, and after it dried, go over it and shade with regular pencils. Because I think it's, for me, I'm not that good at this. I think it's hard to shade it great. When I add water on top of the colors get less vivid, and yeah, I think it's, for me, I think maybe I have too much water or just need more practice, but you can easily go over it with pencils to, yeah, to enhance to make the colors darker and shade it. And that's a faster way for me to color than starting out with color pencils and do everything from scratch, because you already have the base layer, so you don't need to put the first layers down with colored pencils. So let's see, are you dry, the Inktense? Yeah. At least on this paper it's not reactivated again. And what you also can do, which I have not done very much, but you can also mix colors together. If you don't have, let me see, we can take this leaf. No, maybe this petal. We can mix colors together more easily than with regular colored pencils. Let's say we want orange, but we don't have orange. So let's try to make one layer of red and one layer of yellow. And then mix it together. And we should get some kind of orange. That was all for now. See you in next video or stream, and thank you for being here. Goodbye.